Episode 35 of Travel Bros. Jamie Haas is back
Back in
from the
action.
great state of Florida. We're going to be going to Taiwan. We're talking the Mandarin Oriental Taipei today. Before we get there, I got some breaking news. It's a little bit old now, but I was saving it for Jamie, and then I'm going to ask Jamie about this Florida trip he was on real quick. So we had an episode, which was, I don't know, episode 32, 33, something like that, where we talked about St. Thomas. And we talked for a long time about flights to St. Thomas. But real quick, right after we dropped that episode, like days later, Southwest has come out and said they are flying to STT St. Thomas starting in 2026, early 2026. So probably for spring break, because I think their schedule's out right now through the end of January. So I'm guessing the next schedule cycle, you can fly to St. Thomas. So add that to your list. I was thinking maybe some MCO, maybe Houston, Hobby. Jamie thinks Fort Lauderdale, but just a little add on to our episode in case you're interested or a companion pass holder. Jamie, tell us about Florida. You missed a whole episode. What were you doing out there? How was it?
No, this was actually a busy trip, so I didn't get to hop on and record while we were down there. This was a trip that started out as it was only going to be a 4-nighter, and it grew to an 8-nighter. So I got to stay at a couple fun hotels. I stayed at the new Grand Helios at Epic Universe at Universal. So I'm sure we'll do an episode on that, kind of hit on some of the benefits and things. But it was a really cool hotel. I stayed in a 1-bedroom villa at Disney's Bay Lake Tower. They were just renovated. They did an awesome job on the renovation. So that was really cool. And then I also stayed at one other hotel that I had not stayed at before. I stayed in a suite club level at the Grand Destino Tower at Disney. So I'll definitely hit on that, do a property tour. That was a really great property. It is what Disney calls a moderate resort, but it feels, I would say, like a true like Disney deluxe resort. It's probably some of the best bang for your buck you can get at Disney, in my opinion. Did the parks, did it all, did Epic Universe for a second time. Still got some growing pains there, but hopefully by the next go around, it'll be better. And it was hot, very hot.
Yeah, Florida will do that to you in the summer and humid.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're going to talk about somewhere that is unfortunately just as humid. And I just got back from a little over a month ago there now. Mandarin Oriental Taipei is an amazing hotel. Let's break it down. As of right now, as of this date, what is today? July 23rd, 2025. It's the only real true luxury property in Taipei in my mind. Like if you need to be at a luxury hotel, if you want to be at a luxury hotel, this is it, full stop. Now, there are some other hotels. There's a W Hotel right by Taipei 101. It's not a luxury hotel. However, I would say the W probably has some location favor to it. And there are a lot of suites in that hotel based on how it was built. Your other option is you've got a Grand Hyatt, and I would not stay there personally. Sometimes you can get cheap rates, but I've made the mistake of staying there once, so I can say that. It's kind of old and dingy. And then there is a Kimpton as well. I don't love the location of the Kimpton. It's a Kimpton. It is what it is. It's Kimpton. So really, when it comes down to it, you've got the Mandarin Oriental. It really steals the show from a price point standpoint. I mean, this kind of goes with most things in Taipei, but it's probably an $800 or $1,000 a night, $1,500 a night hotel in Tokyo or Hong Kong, and you're easily going to spend under $500 to stay here.
Oh, nice.
So it's not unattainable luxury, and I think if you're someone who's like, man, I'm not going to spend $1,000 a night to stay in Japan, which a lot of people, I completely understand that. This is somewhere where I'd probably go with a splurge, especially when the Grand Hyatt and the W and the Kimpton, I find, are usually $250 to $350 a night. So like this hotel is going to be $300 to $500. I think the experience is better. One thing I will say is there's a Four Seasons that is opening that is going to be in a better location near Taipei 101. It seems like it's 2026, maybe. It was supposed to be 2025. It's not anywhere close to being done. And then there is a Park Hyatt and an Andaz that are supposed to be going into like the new version of Taipei 101 that's being built. However, when I was in Taipei last, which was in 2018, 2017, they were about to open. They were like, oh, it's coming 2020. And obviously, a lot of things have happened since 2020. However, like the building, like you can see it from the mall near Taipei 101, we spent a lot of time at. It's not even done. And so it's supposed to take up some floors in that hotel, so or in the building at the mercy of the people owning the building. And it sounds like those people put the building up for sale last year. Seems like a long, arduous process. So for the time being, I think your choice is the Mandarin Oriental, and I think it's a great choice. If you end up flying into TSA airport, if you're coming locally inside Asia instead of TPE, it is a 2-minute drive from the departures leg of TSA airport to your door. Now, I don't want that to discourage you from staying there because I heard no airplane noise when I was at the Mandarin at all. Most of the flights out of TSA airport are like ATRs and small planes. Think of like a Billy Bishop in Toronto, if you're familiar. All the large planes are going to be at TPE, which is a good 45 minutes away. I think that's a good start. Jamie, have you been to Taiwan? Have you been to Taipei? What
I've
do you
never
got?
been to I've never been to Taiwan. So I was
Okay.
actually gonna I mean, I saw your pictures and I mean it looked like a really good trip. So it would definitely be on my list. I would love to combo this in with something else. And I've never flown EVA, so that would be a fun one as well. Check that out. I mean, this would be a good one too. I think go to when the Four Seasons opens, combo Mandarin Oriental Four Seasons. Check it out. Did you fly into TPE or did you fly into the smaller airport?
So we flew into the small airport from Korea on we actually flew from the small airport in Korea to the small airport in TSA. It was
Very cool.
kind of incredible. It was unfortunately on China Airlines, but that was my 44th airline that I've ever flown. Knocked that off the list.
That's impressive.
I don't need to fly it again, but it was fine. But there's nothing bad or good about it. But there were literally immigration, all of those things, security was zero people on both ends of that airport. So that
If you
was
were,
very cool.
I was gonna say, if you were flying into the bigger airport, right? What's the best way to get to the hotel from there?
I
Have any suggestion?
just car service it.
Yeah.
It's not the night you could, in theory, do public transportation, but you're gonna find, in my opinion, here, Uber or Klook or any of that stuff is so cheap that it doesn't even make sense.
Okay. While you're pulling that up, I'll hit on this because I think this may be the first episode we've done with just the Mandarin Oriental.
Correct.
So if it works, I'll hit on Mandarin Oriental Fan Club is their luxury program that we are able to book for you. Similar to a lot of the other programs we talk about, you know, Virtuoso, Privé, Four Seasons Preferred Partners, very similar, right? So you're going to get breakfast for two daily, $100 property credit, welcome amenity, upgrade, early check-in, late checkout. Those are subject to availability, and pricing is generally pretty decent. And similar to the other programs, they may run exclusive promotions that only Mandarin Oriental Fan Club agents are able to book. So if you're thinking about booking a Mandarin Oriental, whether it's this one or any others, definitely reach out to us and we can see what we can do for you.
Okay. From TPE, which is going to be the major international airport, we actually left out of there to fly to Hong Kong. It's a 45-kilometer drive. It took us, I don't know, 30 minutes. Google says about 35 minutes right now. I generally don't find traffic once you get out of the closer traffic's not really bad in Taipei compared to most of Asia to begin with. But we paid up for a Toyota Alphard, which is like the super nice, 7-passenger van with the reclining seats, all of that. We paid a whopping total of $53 for that
That's
30
impressive.
minute ride. Yeah. The other way too, I think we paid under 30, which I mean was kind of a ripoff because it was 3 miles, but obviously you got to pay, something. Very cheap. I think most of our Ubers were under $8.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So yeah, like I said, Taipei is one of my favorite places to go. But let's dig into this hotel for a little bit, and then I'll tell you about some of the other fun stuff we did while in Taiwan. So Mandarin Oriental is, a brand we don't talk about a lot. I was actually really torn. I was either going to do the Rosewood in Hong Kong or this Mandarin Oriental. And this Mandarin Oriental won out for me. It is a larger hotel for Asia. I want to say it's 303 rooms and suites. Every room in this hotel is huge. For it being a 300-person room, I want to say it was almost sold out while we were there because it was Dragon Boat Festival weekend. So, like, everybody in the country didn't have school. So, your base deluxe room that you can book into is 592 square.
That's huge.
Yes, it's huge. So,
That's there. I was gonna say there's suites that are that size in many places.
correct. And that was what I was going to say. Like, we weren't given an upgrade, I think, due to the fact that the property was fully booked for this holiday. I didn't even care. I mean, it 592 square feet was fine. You don't really get like a true suite experience because there's no door. But a lot of hotels, if you had to set up, they would call it a suite because there's like a little hallway and then there's like a full walk-in closet and then there's the bathroom and it's almost there's like a kind of a separation. It almost feels like from the bedroom, which I would by no means consider it a suite, but like I could definitely see some of these stingy hotels being like, look at this suite because you have a walk-in closet, full like marble shower, separate with a big door on it, and then you had a humongous bathtub. I mean, a bathtub that like an NBA player could sit and soak comfortably in. So from that experience is great. One of the best thread count linens I've ever had. I don't know. I mean, I'm not like a big thread count guy or whatever, but like I had never slept in the Mandarin Oriental, and it's like I would say Four Seasons or beyond, just bed and pillow experience from there. We
I
had
was
an
gonna say
amazing.
it's got to be good
Oh,
because they advertise the thread count.
yes, I know. That's yes. The only reason I knew the thread count is because they brag about it on the listing, and it's it also just feels like a really large king bed. I don't know if it's just part of the room size or whatnot. We had a little bit of a view of the pool. We were on a lower floor, but it was fine. The room is just laid out really, really well. I've got a room tour that I made that I'm going to upload for the stay. We got an incredible welcome gift. They gave my daughter this weird plush toy. I forget what animal it was supposed to be, but I'm not sure. Uh, and then, we had like custom made chocolate in the room. We had some beverages. Like I said, it was a great experience. And you're getting $1,000 a night, I think, luxury room experience for very cheap. Also, I stayed at this trip. I think we've already reviewed one room, Park Hyatt Seoul. My other hotel was the Conrad Tokyo, and this hotel were the three main hotels of the trip we're going to review. This was the number one breakfast of all these properties, which is a big statement because I liked them all. The one downside is with it being full, those couple days of the actual like Dragon Boat Festival weekend is a little crazy in there, and maybe a lot crazy. It does kind of feel like a very over decorated convention center room, which I don't like because the breakfast restaurant is located on the first fourth floor. It almost feels like they took like a ballroom and just turned it into a breakfast buffet. Where the Park Hyatt Seoul and the Conrad Tokyo, it's very obvious those are restaurants that they use for breakfast. So this did have a little bit of like a very buffet feel, but they did decorate it a lot. But from a diversity of food, there was so much fruit available, so much Western food, so much Asian food. They did really cool things like the Chinese donuts that I don't know if you're familiar, but they're like kind of hard and you dip them in like steaming hot.
Oh, I didn't see
They had
those.
like chocolate sauces and things. They had, barbecue pork buns, and then you had a made to order eggs. They made my daughter pancakes and French toast. I mean, it was a huge breakfast buffet, which you get with your booking through us. I think Jamie touched on that while I was digging through my pricing sheet.
A question about the Dragon Boat Festival, just because I
Okay.
have no idea. One, I just Googled it. It looks awesome.
Yes.
We've seen the Aura Farming Kid. Is that Dragon Boat Festival or no? You know what I'm talking
No,
about?
I do. That's an Indonesian boat racing thing,
Okay.
but I think you're generally in the same idea. Now, here's an interesting tidbit. So where they do the dragon boat races is actually very close to the Mandarin Oriental. So if you do go for Dragon Boat Festival, we didn't actually go attend. Our friends that live there were like, "Oh, it's going to be crazy," and I was like, I don't really need that in my life. I mean, it basically just looks like adults rowing crew from
Okay.
what I what I watched. However, the Mandarin on Dragon Boat Festival Day, they did contests for the kids in the pool. So they did like kids under 12, which my daughter wouldn't do it, and I'm upset because I think she would have won. But they actually had these big floats, and kids had to like race across the pool.
Oh, that's fun.
And they gave away like $100 to the winner, and they had like a couple classes. There was like a boys class, girls class. I don't know if it was property credit or $100 cash, but either way,
Hey, even so, that's awesome.
yeah, I think that was a really cool creative opportunity that they were doing. That same day too at the pool, they gave away like popsicles and adult drinks to the pool. And that was the busiest day of the pool. We didn't even actually know about this. Me and my daughter happened to go to the pool that day because my wife and mother-in-law either went shopping or to the spa or something. So I just took her to the pool and all that was going on. So that was really fun. But the Dragon Boat Festival does happen, unfortunately, in the summer, which is not really when you want to be in Taiwan. If you want to figure out when it is, it's a little complicated because it's the fifth day of the fifth month of the Chinese calendar,
Oof.
which in the Western calendar is either going to be late May or early June. So, like, if you look at it for next year, I had it pulled up and now I don't see my tab. Boo, boo, boo. Next year's Dragon Boat Festival is June 19th, 2026. And then for 2025, when we were there, it was May 31st. So there's a little bit of leeway on when it happens. But I did feel like there was just a lot of stuff kind of going on. And then it worked out because we have some friends from New York that now live there and their girls weren't in school. So that was pretty
Oh, that's cool.
cool. The thing is, like, we did a lot of touristy things and kid things, and I didn't feel like any of that stuff was that busy, even with none of the kids being in school. So I think that's another reason. I mean, affordability, which things have gotten way more expensive in Taiwan than from when we were there last, but it's still super affordable. And it doesn't feel as overcrowded as a lot of these other larger Asian cities.
So I got a question. You talked about the
Okay.
pool a little bit. Looking at pictures, the pool looks awesome. It looks like a really, really nice pool. Is it like
Hmm.
like all individual tiles? And I mean, it looks like a really nice setup out there.
Yeah, from what I remember, it is all individual tiled. And then it's actually cratered in the middle of the hotel. So the hotel kind of goes around it. So you get a good amount of shade, which is pretty nice. And then they have all these like palm trees and different elements in there. Asian people don't like the sun. So that is nice. It's not the most like designed kid friendly wise pool. There's not really like a shallow end or anything like where you're like, wow, this was totally made for kids. But I didn't feel unwelcome. There were always a couple other kids at the pool. And like my daughter just kind of like jumping, in from the side. She's
Yeah.
a decent swimmer and stuff. It's not really deep anywhere, but like I think the shallow part of the pool is maybe 3.5 feet and maybe goes up to about 5 feet. So, deal with that what you will. We went to the pool at night one time and there were definitely no kids and there were definitely a few people like on dates and like making out in the pool. And I did feel like a little rude being out there, but it wasn't enough for me to go inside. I was just like, okay, can you guys just make out on the other side of the pool? But my daughter didn't seem to care at all. I was just kind of like, oh, we're like jumping and splashing. I think these people are on like a date in the pool.
Well, and it's not like some pools where you find where it's like, oh, kids can only go from 8 to 10. It's not like a spa pool where it's like, all right, kids can swim 8 to 10 in the morning. It's pretty much anytime you want to go.
Correct. Now, this pool is in the spa. You have to access the spa to get into this pool, but like we never had anyone tell us there's family hours or we weren't welcome, which I think we'll get into too. It's one of the biggest spas I've ever seen in a hotel. So you go down to the floor where the spa is, which is also where the Mandarin Oriental Club is. That's basically the whole floor. It's the Mandarin Oriental Club Lounge and the spa. You have to walk probably like a quarter mile from the entrance of the spa to get to the locker rooms. And then from the locker rooms, you can enter the pool. Customary in Asia is that you shower before you enter the pool. They weren't very strict on stuff like that. In Taiwan, there was really no expectation of you wearing a swim cap, which was the case in Japan and Korea. Ironically, my daughter didn't want to swim in Korea or Japan because of the swim cap. But then when we got to the pool in Taiwan, she wanted to try it and then liked it. So then I was like, well, we could have been just swimming this whole time, but okay. So we wore a swim cap when she didn't need to wear a swim cap. You know, what can you do? Um, there is a Ricard Millier store in the lobby of this hotel, Ricard It's not Richard Mill, I know, but however you're supposed to say it.
Yep.
So that should give you an idea of some of the clientele passing through here. I don't know who needs a $150,000 watch while staying in a $300 a night hotel, but obviously there's a market for that for someone. And touching on the lobby too, there's not really a lot of like common areas to sit, but the lobby is very pretty and expansive. And then with the property being so big, it seemed like people that are doing weddings and things, there's a whole nother entrance for them, like on the side. So the hotel traffic is pretty light, but there's not a lot of seating and a few things which I kind of found annoying, especially when we were like down there waiting for car service and some issues there. The staff was always really great on top of things. In the mornings when I would come back from runs at the valet stand, they would always have Pocari Sweat and towels. So helpful and nice. And
What's that first thing? Is that a drink?
yeah, it's like I really like it. It's a Japanese beverage. It's like Gatorade lemon lime, except it's way more salty and way
Okay.
less sweet. So think of like it's like sour lime and salt in
Okay.
one beverage. I really like it. I've noticed most people do not appreciate it. So if
It's
you
probably good
ever
after a
run,
run, especially in the summer.
I like it. If you ever run Tokyo Marathon, that is like the official beverage that is like on course instead of water. So be prepared to drink a lot of that or practice that. You can find it in the States, to be honest. I think in most places, any Asian grocery store, like we have Metsua here in Dallas, you can get it. But it's a pretty widely drank beverage in Asia, but it is of Japanese origin. Like I said, the lobby is pretty beautiful. One downside I did have is so the courtyard of the hotel has some other restaurants, and when you look on the website of the property, it kind of implies that those are part of the hotel, which why wouldn't they be? Or like, they're kind of listed as like things on property. I found it the hard way. Those are in fact not really on property. You can't even bill to the room. So like using your $100 credit and stuff for the restaurants in the courtyard are not possible. However, you still got some decent options. There's Yagi, which is a Chinese restaurant, which you could build to the room and use on property. Bencata, which is Italian food. We were not trying to eat Italian food when we were there, here nor there. I don't even know how you're supposed to say it. Cafe un dos trois, doi trace, I guess, to
Yeah, one,
tros.
two,
I don't
three.
know. Yeah. Oh, I see.
Un, deux, trois.
Un deux trois. I don't know why. I think I wasn't prepared to speak French while we're talking about Taiwan. So that is the breakfast buffet. And then it also seems to open for lunch. If I didn't have my daughter, we probably would have messed around with afternoon tea, but I didn't do that either. In the Jade Lounge, they have a bar that I'm actually not even sure where it is. And then they had a cake shop as well, which we did buy some things from the cake shop, which was pretty fantastic. And then, like I said, there's a couple other restaurants right in the courtyard. And if you really want to get crazy, about zero point 0.3 miles away from this hotel is a Texas Roadhouse.
Ooh. Get some, what are those? The honey buns? Honey butter?
Yes, there's actually quite a few Texas Roadhouses in Taiwan, and I was told it's kind of more of like a formal restaurant there. I didn't go to one though. Unfortunately,
That's
I couldn't bring
interesting.
myself. Another really cool spot too, if you happen to be here, is there is a 7-Eleven that is a Starlux Airlines takeover collab store. So it looks like a Starlux airplane on the inside. They actually sell Starlux exclusive merch. And then it's all done up like the front entrance is like gate B17, like 7-Eleven. So if you're like a plane nerd, I I did find that pretty cool. And that's basically 2 city blocks away from where the hotel is. That is unique. Now, I think when this Mandarin Oriental was built, which I should probably know when it was built. Let me pull this up.
I pulled it up 2014.
See, it's not that old. Well, I don't know what I was going to say then. So this hotel is kind of built where there's a lot of the corporate offices and some of those things. And I think since when it was built in 2014, a lot of stuff has kind of migrated over. Like Taipei 101 is kind of like the hot area. My argument to stay here is I think it's a far better hotel. And like I mentioned to you, you can Uber to Taipei 101 in that whole area within 15 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe on the max side. And you're talking like 10 to 12 bucks. So like,
Yeah, that sounds
even
really
if you,
good.
even if you do that every day, it's $20. And we also, I'd like to point this out. We were taking like Uber XLs everywhere because I didn't want to get stuck in some of these smaller, you know,
Yeah.
dingy setups. And then as a note, the one place that we ate at that was not included in the hotel's Cafe Logano, which just skip it. We ate there we ate there right as we landed because we landed at like 7 p.m. and I was just over it. There's so much good food in Taiwan, so much great accessible food. The breakfast is great. Breakfast is really hard to get good breakfast in Asia, so I think that's got some serious value there. But once you're done with that, I would just move along. I have a shout for a place we actually did not get to eat there. We did takeout because they were so busy. It's called Gira Pizza. Gira Pizza. It is super walkable from the Mandarin Oriental. Some of the best Italian food I've had outside of Italy, I will say. Priced really well. They book out quickly and they don't know how to use the internet. So you got to like call. Or if you're not a big phone person when you get there, just walk over there and see if you can make a reservation later in the week. We weren't able to get pizza because they were sold out of pizza dough or they didn't have enough pizza dough past what they needed. And then another place I really liked, it's called But We Love Butter, which is a pastry shop that's very walkable to this place as well. So when I say that there's a lot of stuff going on near Taipei 101, definitely don't get like discouraged that there's nothing around you because there's a lot of good food in this. You're basically in the downtown area of Taipei. Something else you could walk to, which is a cool shout, is Taipei Arena. Taipei Arena. Don't think of an arena like you think about in the United States. Think about it as like almost it would kind of break your brain if I'm being honest, because even when there's no games there, you can access the stadium. And so like think about like if you walked into like where the Panthers play
Yeah.
and then you could walk all the way around the concourse, but then it's like closed at the gates.
So what do you
There
go
was
in there
like
for? Is there like restaurants and stuff you're
well,
going to?
yes, so there's like active restaurants open, there's things going on, and then even crazier, there was a full blown like 80s style roller rink that you could
Okay.
go skate at. It was like a cosmic roller skating.
Yeah.
And then above the cosmic roller skating rink was a full on, it's called Taipei Arena Iceland, which is basically a full blown humongous ice skating rink. I think there was other stuff in there as well that we didn't even explore, but like I took my daughter over to the ice rink. Yeah, it's roller 186 skating rink. And there
That's
was
in
like
the arena?
it's
That's
inside
nuts.
the arena. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And then a really cool note too for runners is that there are two running tracks on the same block as the arena that are public access. One is like just on a field behind the stadium, and then it's called the Taipei Municipal Stadium. So I'm assuming when there's big events, this one is closed. But you basically get to run around the track of like this 20,000 seat stadium, which is super cool. And then the
That's pretty
bathrooms
cool.
and everything in there are accessible as well. So that was really nice. It's very close to there. And then wedged in there was a bunch of like different, I don't know if you need memberships or if you can pay one off, but there were lots of like there's like a big like a gymnastics building, tennis club. I didn't like explore some of that. I saw signs for a couple like swimming pools. So I don't know if those are public access or if you can one off pay for those as well. But either way, there's a lot of like, it seemed like that was like the universal block of like sports activities. While we were there, the circus was in town, which I
Yeah, there's a
also
lot
did
going on
not.
while you were there.
I know I did not purchase tickets to the circus. I was kind of curious how much of a circus I was like, is this like a Barnum and Bailey circus or like is this I don't know. I didn't find out. We had enough stuff going on, but that's what I mean. Like and this is all like I said, this is all walkable. There's the one of the night markets is pretty walkable from the Mandarin Oriental as well. It's not the night market I would go out of my way to go to, but if you don't want to be Ubering all around town, you've got some night market options there. The night market I will recommend is called it's the Rio Raohe night market. We went with our friends that live there. It is really crowded. So just be prepared if you're going. We did go on like a Friday night, but man, it is butt to nuts. You're just everyone is up in your space. There was so much fun stuff in the market. We ate these little like meat pie things that were really famous because I had seen people eating them on TikTok beforehand, and we got some of those that were great. And there's like claw machine arcade games mixed in on the sides. We stopped and got a lot of random food. And I will say, if you like see something you're not sure the line is long, there seems to be like a repeat option of everything. So like don't feel the need to grab it right away. There was a really cool booth that my friend's daughters, he has girls about the same age as me, they knew him. And so they have like these, they put up a wall of balloons and you throw darts. And then if you get enough darts, you get like a prize. And like that was really cool. My daughter still talks about that to the day, and that we won a claw machine game on like
Oh,
our
that's
second
awesome.
try. Because we got our butts kicked by the claw machines in Japan, but that's another story for another day.
Now she's hooked. She's going to be a gambler for life.
I hope not. I hope
It's
not.
that
And
easy.
then yeah. And then something just to mention too, like Taiwan has huge biking culture and running culture. There's just a lot of healthy people around. I did some long runs when I was there, and there's this thing called the Keelung River. I hope so. And then there's bike and running paths on either side of that river. And it's about a mile from the hotel to get to the river. But I did 18, 20 miles or something ridiculous when I was there, 14 miles. Had no problem, ran along the river. I actually went around to the airport and did the airport. There's an airport viewing area, which you can find on Google for the local airport. And I got to see some ATRs take off. It's called the Songshan Airport Aircraft Viewing Alley, which in theory you could drive there too, but is the skinniest road imaginable. So, run or walk there with caution. But that was kind of neat. You get to the end of the runway where they take off, and that's, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 kilometers, 2, 3 miles, mile and a half from the hotel as a nice finish there. My head is spinning. I just feel like we're all over the place. Any questions? Get us back on track. You got Jamie for us?
No, I mean, it sounds like there's a ton to do, lots of fitness, lots of activities while you were there. All right, so we hit on the hotel. We talked about the pool, talked about the room layout. I don't think we hit much on the spa, right? You guys did the spa. Your wife did some treatments.
We did. So yeah, well, I failed to use my property credit at this Cafe Lagana we didn't really like, which was fine. It just wasn't worth going to if the credit wasn't there. So I ended up sending my wife to the spa for a facial, and they had some kind of like touchless facial system thing going on that she said she really liked. Like you put a machine on and then it did things
Oh,
and like
interesting.
warmed your face and did some stuff. My wife is like very like anti-touch as a person, so that she was very into that. They also had ones where you could physically be touched. And then by the treatment rooms, there's like a relaxation tea lounge, like that you kind of go to and down there and access. She was very impressed with. My daughter and I went to the fitness center a couple times. It's really big. It's all techno gym. There's actually a lot of space, which I find very rare in Asia. So like there were places to like stretch, put out yoga mats. They had free weights, kettlebells. They had bike machines, some of the weird, I don't even know,
Yep.
multi-purpose
Yeah,
weight
yeah.
machines. They probably had 10 or 12 treadmills, some sit-down bikes, some Stairmasters. They had like a dedicated, probably half-size fridge full of waters and ice cold towels, which was great. There was a fitness center attendant as well. And they had a whole separate room that was probably 3 or 4 thousand square feet for classes. I
Oh,
didn't
nice.
attend any, but yeah, so that was all separate and really laid out. And I think you said you read somewhere, is it the largest Mandarin Oriental spa in Asia? Is that
In Asia,
correct?
yeah. 35, we guys said 3,500 square meters. So what's it, 35,000 square feet or so?
30, I think that comes out to like 38,000 square feet. Let me see,
That's
3,500
big.
square meters. Convert that to freedom units, 37,673 square feet. That's a
Pretty
big
impressive.
spot. That's a big spot in America.
Yeah, and especially in a 300 room hotel, like that's a good spa.
Yeah. I will say I did kind of get the impression that they seem to sell. I don't have any evidence of this, but I do feel like they sell like access to their amenities, maybe to people locally and some things. It seemed like to me because I would see the same people. I don't know. I was just like, because it was one thing when it was like really busy, and then I kept seeing those same people, and I'm like, are these people just here hanging out? And like there were a lot more people at breakfast than I felt like there were in the hotel by the end of the trip, but
Makes sense.
who knows?
All right. I was looking at pictures. I don't know if you saw this thing or if it even stands out like the way it does in these pictures they're showing.
Okay.
This giant chandelier in the entrance area.
Oh yeah, it's huge.
It looks
It's
pretty
like
cool.
it is very pretty. And part of me was like, I was like, I don't know how we're gonna keep talking about this property, but we're pushing on 40 minutes already. So I guess we've talked about it a lot. I have a question for you, Jamie, and then I'll
Yeah.
talk about a few of those things. Do you know what the situation, or have you done a Mandarin Oriental club lounge before? Like a club
I
lounge room?
I have not done one.
Okay.
I was actually I was looking at that. I was trying to think, and I don't even know if I've booked a club lounge Mandarin Oriental, at least not in the last year or so.
Okay.
I have to imagine it. I don't know if it's Ritz level or not, like where it could replace your meals, but I have to imagine they do a good job with it.
I did peek in there from the side because it's like I said, it's right by the spa. It did look very nice. So I'd be, I will have to do some research into that. Hopefully, we'll get some bookings from here and be a little well versed in that. There's some really big rooms here as well, I think, which is something to touch on. We ended up doing two rooms because price wise it made sense. But man, you get into there's a couple like Mandarin suites, the presidential suite, even some of the club premier suites get really large and nice. But like we said, the base room's already, 500 something square feet. So you can only go up from there, right? You can't make suites smaller than your base rooms. I mean, the club premier suite is 1,432 square feet. It's on the upper floors. It has like a full sit down living room, bigger bathroom, like a full vanity vestibule, essentially like inside the bedroom on top of the bathroom. And like that room was only 13 or 1400 bucks a night. I want to say off the top of my head when we were there. I do think that price varies a lot and I don't have a ton of them, but I mean, it was to the point where it was like a little too expensive for us to combo down into one room and I didn't feel like we could bring in a rollaway easily because they just have the space full so much. But if you're looking for a higher end experience at not the biggest prices, that's another option there as well.
Well, and I mean, at 600 square feet, you're doing two rooms, 1,200 square feet between two of them, two bathrooms. That's a nice amount of space.
Yeah. And they did offer a lot of unique things. We just didn't, we were so busy hanging out with our friends and doing some things. I probably would have done some of these other activities. They have like a Little Fans cooking class for the kids. It's called Little Fans Culinary Academy. They offered swimming classes for your kids. And then they had an art of tea making and a how to make xiaolong bao, like the soup dumplings, as a class they offered. And then there's a place called the Whitestone Gallery that I didn't have a ton of interest in going to, but they offer like private tours, which is like they said was a Mandarin Oriental exclusive, which I thought was kind of
Oh, it's
cool.
kind of
It is
cool.
weird. It's like 20 minutes from the hotel, so it's not like it's very close. And it was closed for a little bit of the time we were there as well. But it's something else unique I think that the property offered. And then I'm going to pivot to now, I will say this is really far from the property. This is the furthest we ever traveled. Maybe not, but I'm just going to say it is. It's called the Maokong Gondolas. Now, my daughter still talks about this, and it was her absolute favorite thing we did in Taiwan, hands down. We took a glass bottom gondola. They also have regular gondolas. The price difference between glass bottom and regular is like $2. So
Okay.
we took this glass bottom gondola, and there's 5 or 6 stops along the line. We went to the stop. I wish I could tell you the name of it, but I can tell you if you get directions to like there's a restaurant we ate at called the Mountain Tea House. That's where you need to go. I want to say it's 3 or 4 stops in this gondola. The gondola is really cheap. We shoot up. You go way out into the woods. I mean, you're out in like the middle of nowhere. It doesn't even seem like you're near civilization. It's so cool out there. There's a lot of hiking trails, a lot of interesting things that you can do out there. We ate at this place called the Mountain Tea House, which has tea themed food. So like tea flavored like fried rice and all these things, and then all these different teas. That's like it's like a big tea area. So there's like tea infused fried rice, tea infused chicken, all the food. Our our friends that live there ordered for us. They tend to go there a lot. All the food we ate was great. I don't all know what it was. We ate outside on these big patios. There's some inside seating as well. There is a cat, a resident cat there with one eye that our friends' daughters were very excited to see. They were like telling my daughter, like, you have to see this one-eyed cat, which we did see. A lot of great tea options. They did have an English restaurant. Oh, it's Malkong Station. I guess Malkongon, that is the station for this place. There's a lot of great ice creams and some things we ate around there, but you can walk around. There's some great viewing areas. And like I said, you can turn that into hiking. There's some temples up there as well that you can kind of tour and walk through. And we turned around and went back, and we actually got off on an earlier exit, and it brings you to the back entrance of the zoo. And so you start right at the back of the zoo, and we walked our way to the front of the zoo and then Ubered back home. But you got to see a panda, which was the second panda we
Nice.
saw on this trip, which I hadn't seen a panda since I was a little kid. So that was a cool experience. It is a decent zoo. There was nothing about it that I remember. I was like, wow, outside of the panda, but it's very walkable, very nice. And if you're super active in hiking, if you start digging around in that whole Mongkong area, like I said, there's a lot of like waterfall trailheads and lots of cool stuff where you could do out there as like a place to think about going.
While you were talking about that, I was just pulling some pricing just so we can give some examples. I
Okay.
don't know how, I can't find a date on this promo, but there's a promo going right now. It's called One More Night, Fourth Night Free. It seems to be a summer promo. So I just put a date in next month. I did August 17th through the 21st.
Okay.
And it comes out to be before taxes and everything, based on current Google conversions, $294 a night, which
Yeah.
seems really good.
It's a no-brainer. I mean, I would probably pay $50 a person just to do that breakfast. So if you've
Yeah, so
got
that's really good.
two or three people, you're already in the green. I don't know. I mean, there's just so much stuff. There's a lot of different day trips you can look at too from Taiwan. There's some cool like beach cities. There's a whole city it's like an old mining town that they basically let become overrun with cats.
It's pretty cool.
That's like their marketing. If you just Google like Taiwan Cat City, Jamie, you'll find it. It's called Hotong Cat Village. But there's lots of YouTube content made about this, but it's essentially just like it's an old coal mining village that they just have hundreds
Oh
and
yeah,
hundreds of, yeah, different cats hanging out. So, I mean, if you hate cats, stay away from that place. My daughter loves cats. We just did not have time to go there. And I mean, if you will read on Reddit and people are like, the Taiwanese cat village is such a tourist trap and stuff. And it's like, well, no, duh. Like that's like going to Disney World and being like, Disney World
yeah,
is such a tourist trap. Like, you think there's just a random cat village in an abandoned mining town that's obviously not, catering to
that no one
tour.
knows
I don't
about.
know. I was just like, I don't know. It's like, okay, like, did you just think all these cats got here casually? I mean, maybe some people do, maybe not. But the cat city once again is like a 45 minute drive from the middle of Taipei, maybe closer to an hour, I would say, if you want to talk from like the Mandarin itself. A lot for an hour, but either way, it's accessible. You can get there. Some of the beach areas too, like Shalom Beach, is a place that they told me a lot of people went. We did not go because it was is a festival weekend. I mean, I forget when we were on the gondola, you could see the road going up there, and it was just bumper to bumper. But food is great. I highly recommend going to Din Tai Fung there. It will be way cheaper than the United States. So it's just something definitely worthy of checking out.
Random fact: did you see that I
Sure.
said about Din Tai Fung yesterday?
I
It's
did see what you
what is it? The
sent.
number one grossing restaurant chain in the world, 27 million a location or something like that. That's pretty amazing.
It is pretty crazy. I will say it is literally a third of the price in Taiwan. But so is
That's
everything else.
awesome.
So I guess it's not that crazy.
But yeah, I mean, this seems like a great value. I mean, what do you think about? I have a question
Okay.
for someone. If you only speak English, did you run into any language barrier while you were
Oh, no
there, or
problem.
pretty? So this, I mean, I feel like this could be it's a very affordable like intro to Asia,
Hmm.
or at least a good, if you're going on a longer trip. This seems like a pretty affordable city that you could combo into, like you said, if you were going to a Japan or a Tokyo or something like that.
Yeah, well, you've been to Japan. I
Yep.
would say English is more prevalent here. How about this? I think Japanese people and Taiwanese people have the same proficiency of English. I think people in Taiwan are much less reluctant to speak to you in English.
Yep, that makes sense.
Because, the one thing that does drive me a little crazy in Japan, and we'll touch that in our Japan episode, is I'm like speaking to someone in English and they're like replying to me in Japanese. And then at least nowadays, you've got like you can whip out your Google phone and translate. But the first time I went to Japan was in 2004, right? And then they'd be like, oh, they would literally say to me like, oh, I speak awful English. And I'm like, okay, well, I speak zero Japanese. So let's try your awful
Yep.
English to communicate here for a minute. And if you do leave Tokyo, I will say I've spent quite a bit of time like in Fukushima and north of there. There are just flat out people that don't
Yeah.
speak English. But most people in Tokyo, I will say in Taiwan, the younger someone is, the easier it is. And we had some friends that one of them is from Taiwan and then grew up in New York and is now back there. So we had a little bit of a cheat pass, so to speak, for, some things. But every restaurant, even when we were up on that mountain out in the middle of nowhere, they had an English menu. The server spoke English. There was nowhere where I encountered all the Uber drivers, no English. An interesting thing about Taiwan, and I don't want to get into some weird political storm over here. I don't know how well you are aware of China, Taiwan, and all of these complex issues.
We're gonna get
I
the
found it really
views.
interesting.
We'll
Yeah,
get some views.
I found it really interesting. There's almost zero Chinese cars in Taiwan, and actually the number of Teslas was mind blowing.
That's pretty fascinating.
It was just pretty fascinating because, like, went to Hong Kong from Taiwan, and I'm sure you noticed in Hong Kong
Yep.
there's a ton of Chinese vehicles
Yeah.
everywhere. And then, mind you, some of those vehicles are from the mainland because you'll see they have the dual plates. I don't know if you catch that or not, but some of the cars will have a dual plate for Hong Kong Island and mainland China and things. But I'm very into cars and just I find different people's cars and stuff interesting. It was so stark. There was no BYDs, no Shaolings. Like there was just I was
Yeah.
like, wow,
And
this
those are
is
all over in Hong
crazy.
Kong, obviously.
They're everywhere. Yeah. But the amount of Teslas was just crazy. And then a lot of people, it seems like there's like a modding Tesla culture there. People had like weird mods on their Teslas. I mean, this is pretty useless for, your stay here. One other property you could give a shout to that maybe if you're just like, look, I'm not feeling the Mandarin Oriental, which I think you're making the mistake, but here or there. Two hotels we didn't really touch on that I do think are probably worth mentioning is the Regent Taipei, which is an IHG property. You can get the benefits there. To me, it looks really old and dated, just stylistically wise. The other issue is it is actually further by 2 or 3 miles from Taipei 101 and this other stuff. So I think it's in an even worse location. And the other property that I probably should have mentioned at opening too is the Shangri-La in Eastern Taipei. The property itself looks great. Like the pool and some things got me really excited. But the rooms in the fitness center and the marble they use is like all just out of the 80s. And then it was for the days I was there, it was basically the same price as the Mandarin Oriental too. So I was just like, this is crazy. And that also, you still need a cab to get into. You're a little bit closer to Taipei 101, those things, but it's just, I did want to represent those two hotels before I get some hate mail. I do think those are also more luxury options. But like I said, the Mandarin Oriental to me is just far and above the best option you're going to find in town.
Yeah. And I pulled up just while we were talking about them price wise. And for a 4 night stay, you're within a couple $100 between all of them. And
Yeah.
at $100 a night difference, I would probably lean to do this Mandarin Oriental.
Right. And I think one of the big differentiators too is like you're saying the Mandarin Orientals within a couple $100, but like what is the base room
Oh yeah,
size
size
in a
wise and
lot of these
everything.
hotels? You probably to be in a 600 square foot room in all these other hotels, you probably need to be in a suite.
Yep.
So then
Yeah, I would
it's like
agree.
if you start, factoring for some of that kind of stuff, like it probably becomes pretty quickly like not that competitive.
They're basically paying you
That's
to
how
stay
I look
there.
at it. Every time I pitch that to my wife, she never really buys that argument. But
I'm
yeah,
just
see
pulling
the
up the
region.
region to see if I can get a size. Oh, you got it.
No, but I came across. I was like, man, it was built in 1946.
It looks like it. It's 39 square meters, so about 400 square feet versus 600
Okay,
square feet.
which still decent size though.
Yeah,
I For an Asian hotel room, and it's also 538 rooms.
it is. That is the cheapest of all the hotels you mentioned. That is the cheapest. So if you're looking for an affordable stay, you're all in August, a little over $200 a night, which
Okay,
is pretty cheap, all things considered for what you're getting.
it really is. Like I said, I think to me the downside is it's just far
Yeah, I mean, I'm sold
further.
on the Mandarin for the price.
from a lot of things. What are a few other things I can hit you? Oh, here's a real interesting one. McDonald's did not take credit cards in this country. You needed cash
Really?
to eat at McDonald's. Yeah, that was a. I've never been to a McDonald's that didn't take a credit card, and this lady looked at me like I had a sixth eye when I tried to pay with a credit card. Shin Kong A8 is a mall we spent a lot of time at, also connected to Shin Kong A9, A11. But that whole cluster of places, you could probably spend your whole vacation within that little pod between. All of them have really good restaurants in the basement. One of those malls is where we went to Din Tai Fung, and then my daughter and those girls went to Cold Stone Creamery after. So you just get
Okay.
a real unique experience. And then I think right attached to those malls as well is there's a La Meridian somewhere in there, and there's also a Humble House Curio Collection hotel. I wouldn't really classify either of them on like the luxury side, but they are attached to that mall if that's something you're really, really, just in need of. If you're just like, look, I'm not trying to walk, it's hot. I did get roped into I don't know what you call those, like a street performer show there. So be
Okay.
forewarned, you could be volunteered. They put up this big post, and I was like an anchor of the post.
Oh, that's
This
awesome.
it's kind of a cool show. I guess by default, I was getting picked between everyone that was sitting out there. That was, I'm sure they're like, we're not moving this guy. I don't know. Every time I go to Taipei, I'm like, I just want to go back. So I think that says a lot.
Yeah, I'd like to check it out.
And the Mandarin Oriental just, I feel like, really elevated that stay at such a low price.
And this is just this, if anyone's watching, the current conversion rate for the new Taiwan dollar to US dollar is 29.28 Taiwan to 1 US. So if you're looking at prices, that it's about a third, right? Or
Okay.
what, 3%, whatever conversion.
Sure. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know for a lot of people if flying across the world, it's worth going to Taiwan. It would be for me, but I definitely think it's worth trying to integrate into like a trip to Korea or Hong Kong. The flights are easy, they're short. And then I don't know, there's so much of Taiwan, like, there's a lot of and you're probably going to start getting into places where you're not going to see many US tourists or even tourists, but there's other parts of Taiwan that you could explore. Like there's other secondary cities there, and there's a lot of different like Taiwanese islands that you can also get into and do things there. And then if you want me to really blow your mind on a map, Taiwan is insanely close to Okinawa. So like probably not two things you're thinking of integrating into a trip, but if you look at Okinawa to TPE, I'm going to pull it up real quick because I can't remember off the top of my head. I've flown this route on Ava before. It's an hour and 30-minute flight.
That's not, yeah, that's
So if you have any interest in Okinawa, which Okinawa now has a brand new Rosewood Hotel on some of the outer islands that looks cool. And then I've stayed at the Hyatt Regency.
don't be telling people about Okinawa. That's going to get us in trouble.
Hyatt Regency's Saragaki Island. Amazing property. Like it should be labeled a park Hyatt. How they even let it be a Hyatt Regency, I don't know. It's on a little island. It's one of my favorite hotels I've ever been to. Staff there is incredible. There's a Hyatt Regency in Naha and Okinawa in the city. Definitely skip on that one. And then, like I said, this Rosewood is now opened. Jamie is referencing this inside joke that I think it's our most viewed video on social media is me talking about going to
It
Okinawa
was the
on my
Hyatt Regency,
honeymoon.
right?
Yes, and people are like, "Oh my gosh, you're telling people about Okinawa. You've ruined Okinawa." So, yeah, it is. Oh, it's the second.
So if you get
Jade
there
Mountain is our
it's crowded,
first most
blame
viewed
Joey.
video. Blame me, I guess. Yeah, it's quite a hot take there. 142 comments on that video. Most people are just mad that I'm talking about Okinawa. And I'm like, guys, there's like a huge military base there. It's not that much of a secret. There's some other great properties too. There's a Ritz-Carlton on that island. There's an Intercontinental. But yeah, I think Hotel Monterey is another place we had talked about. There's an infinite amount of places to stay. I think Okinawa is also one of my favorite places in Asia. So if you want to get creative, do your regular Japan thing, shoot down to Okinawa and then head over to Taipei. I think that'd be an incredible trip. But we're turning this into a Okinawa podcast here almost.
Yep.
So I don't want to get too far in the weeds with Okinawa. You got any other questions on Taipei? Did we cover the Mandarin pretty well?
Yeah, I think so. Looks cool. Big rooms, good rates, nice spa.
A lot of fun. Yeah, and there was a couple. I'll give a shout to this last thing here before we roll. My daughter had so much fun at this place. This was also kind of a far cab ride, maybe 30 minutes. It's this place called Austin Land, like Austin, Texas, but land. It was one of the most fun indoor playgrounds I think my daughter's ever been to. I take my daughter to a lot of indoor playgrounds. The downside is most of the playgrounds we went to kind of sucked, but they were in these big malls where there was a lot of stuff to do. Where in Austin Land, the mall really sucked, but the playground was so fun. But bigger than anything you could comprehend in your American brain of what a playground is. It's called Austin Land, and 40 playgrounds probably in one. Like there's the playground you're thinking of with ball pits and slides, and there's a whole room, probably like a 500 square foot, 1,000 square foot room just full of sand. Then there was a train room. Then there was like a cafe room, a fast food room. There's like a fake garden room. There's a whole
Yeah, this looks cool.
entire like 1,000 square foot room where you kids can play with calico critters. And then there's like a fake house room. There was a full on restaurant. There's like a costume area where your kids can like dress up in different outfits. Then for like boys, there's like a whole room with like Brio trains and like Hot Wheels. I don't know what you call those things. Like play sets.
Yeah, yeah.
And it wasn't that busy. It was the food. We actually ate food there because the mall didn't have a lot of options. And then right outside Austin Land was a whole floor of the mall was like an arcade, which they weren't attached to each other. You still had to pay for arcade games and things. But I mean, all the typical fun arcade games were right outside. So that was like a great way to kill a day. That we did that on the last day because our Dragon Boat Festival weekend was done. So our friends' kids had to go back to school. So that was like our last day stop. They gave me a shout too. But I think that's it. I think that's Taipei. I hope that
That's a
Taipei.
good episode for a city hotel.
I think so. I was gonna say I hope the Taipei Chamber of Commerce has a check on the way for all the people we're sending to Taipei. We'll see. Probably won't be that lucky, but yeah, I think so. We've got a link down in our bio and our show notes, travelbrospod.com/book with us. If you want to book the Mandarin Oriental, happy to do it and provide anything. If you have any hotel stay you want coming up help with, we can almost always get you some extra benefits or love going with some of these hotels. Please don't hesitate to message us. We've had some exciting bookings this month. We're one booking away right now. We're tied for our most messages through the site in 1 month. So you guys, by the time this
Still got a week to
publishes,
go.
yeah, you'll have like 5 days once it publishes. So just one more person give us a new submission. We'll break a record. I'll make Jamie dance in the next episode. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
See ya.